have our normal video about our Thornbound session. So I wanted to make this video talking about the Wizards of the Coast news, the D&D virtual tabletop. I also want to talk about some ideas I had from running a session and actually playing a session, and then my thoughts on actually developing a game, the tabletop side and the digital side. So I want to first talk about Wizards of the Coast. I've been seeing all of these videos about, okay, Wizards of the Coast fails on this and this. Sometimes it's Wizards of the Coast, sometimes it's Hasbro. Hasbro is the parent company with all the toy stuff. And I see that it starts to create a culture of people who want to see Hasbro slash Wizards of the Coast fail. And I don't think that's healthy for the hobby. For now, I don't particularly care for the companies. I buy games because I enjoy games. There's only two companies I would say at this very moment that I say, okay, whatever game they put out, okay, I want to get it. A few companies. I'm going to say that about Larian Studios because I've enjoyed it ever since I started playing their games, every single game that they came out. Divinity Original Sin, Divinity Original Sin 2, BG3. BG3, in my opinion, would be more fun if it used a different rule set, like the Pathfinder 2E rule set, but we already know, okay, D&D so popular. But it's a testament to how good that game is that I still enjoy it, even though it uses the 5th edition rule set, even though it's modified. So there's that. Larian Studios does a good job. CD Projekt Red, I started with The Witcher 3. I tried to go back to The Witcher 2, and then Witcher 1. Couldn't do it. But Witcher 3, Cyberpunk 2077. I love Cyberpunk 2077. I plan on getting The Witcher 4. Post. And then third, Owlcat Studio. Pathfinder Kingmaker, great. Pathfinder Wrath of Righteous, great. I plan on playing Rogue Trader. I tried going back to the other Pathfinder games, but playing Pathfinder 2E and then going back to Pathfinder First Edition, it's just a no-go for me. But in terms of story and things like that, Outcast Studios did an amazing job, and I love the overarching mechanics. I love the Kingdom mechanics, and I love the Crusade mechanics. The Crusade mechanics needs a little work. I wish they would have explained that the best commander and the only commander that you really want to go with is the Mage Top commander, but we won't get into that so far. So I want a company to do well in the sense of the Wizards of the Coast, in terms of I want them to do well in the sense that if they do well, then that's just better for the hobby in general. But I'm neutral, my neutral stance, because whatever they do, I can learn lessons. For example, with all of their flops with engaging with their community and their communication with their community, then I understand what not to do. And then I wouldn't fall in the trap anyways, because from the point of view, I've heard about this recent fiasco about how they accidentally released part of their upcoming set ahead of time in a certain country, and then they said, hey, we will threaten you with legal action if you don't return the stuff. Now, no indie developer is going to do that because you can threaten laws and all that stuff, but it still costs money to sue someone and enforce those. And no indie company, I can just see that from my point of view. You can get all these contracts and stuff, but if you don't have the money to sue, it's just theatrics in a sense. But apparently the people behind Critical Role, people behind Daggerheart, stuff like that, they did a more understandable, which I think is the common way to handle it, is to just ask your community to not share the content with others until the official release time. I think like anyone who just interacts with people in a normal daily life would do it that way. At least in my opinion, I would just think that's the case. But anyway, also, I would like the entire pie for the role-playing community to increase, because ever since BG3 came out, I've even heard this with new players who are interested in getting to the RPG when I have the listings on Roll20. That, oh, I play BG3, I heard of it about this, I want to get into the role playing genre and stuff like that. So them doing well helps the entire community grow the pie. So I don't have anything to gain from them failing, because even if I say in my mind, oh, I want them to fail so I can do better with my TTRPG, it's not. There's so many TTRPGs out there. So praying for Wizards of the Coast to fail so some other TTRPG can take its place is not realistic. So there's that. Also, I do like the fact that some of their books, I did some research. First, I thought it was all of their books were made in the US. Someone could correct me if they have more information. But at least for these books, the new 2024 books, these were made in the US. And the thing with the terrorists, in my mind, I'm mainly focused on the digital side and creating a BTT and then get an iOS app similar to Fighter's Den if you were playing 5th edition back in the day. I want to make an app like that. So the terrorists, I'm really not concerned about that. But in the future, as far as printing, like I would like to have things printed in the US if possible. Personally, I just don't like doing a lot of work, so whichever's easiest and the self-publishing format. So that opens my eyes. And I do like the binding. I'm like not like a book expert and stuff like that, but these look like and feel like some nice quality books, and they smell like some nice quality books. Matt, I will show this because I'm not going to say this is a Pathfinder or whatever printing thing that they came up. I'm not going to say that's this fault. I did drop this. I do like this special edition thing. I did drop this. But I don't think from one drop that the binding should just poke out and just fall out. That's nothing against Hasbro. Maybe any book that I drop might come out the way. I'm upset that this one, because I do enjoy this, and I got the special edition because I do flip through the monster manual. Even though I do like digital formats, I do run on Foundry VTT. I still like to be able to, when I'm choosing monster, flip through the book and just get the ideas going. I'm not going to intentionally drop my D&D book just to test it. So we'll leave it at that. So those are my thoughts for the Wizards of the Coast thing. And the same thing for Roll20 versus Foundry VTT. I personally like Foundry VTT, but I don't want Roll20 to fail. And even I'm still working on the 8th round VTT, working with a developer for that. I don't want Roll20 to fail. It's like there. Even for one of my players who I convinced to be a GM, he uses Roll20 because he doesn't own boundaries. And it's good enough. Some things it does well for the current situation over Foundry is that for the things like saving throws and proficiencies and stuff like that, Roll20 doesn't do the things automatically. So I can get the right numbers and proficiencies in Roll20 easier than in Foundry, because Foundry already has up to date. But assuming that someone was just playing Pathfinder 2nd edition, Foundry above all, I think personally would work better in Roll20. And then I was watching some Roll for Combat live streams of their videos and their sessions, and Steven Glicker, I believe that's his name, he uses Roll20 and it looks nice. Of course, you have to do all of these macros and all of these things, but to each their own. To each their own. So there's that, my little talk. I just hope that the RPG community just grows bigger and bigger, and that just gives me more opportunity to be successful. Same thing with the gaming industry. I don't particularly want a company to fail. I'm still moving. I just want it to grow bigger, so it just improves my chances and other people's chances. So there's that. And now, here's my talk about being a GM and being a player. First, I want to talk about things I don't like. I don't like when players show up late and other players show up. Because I think you're always going to have this. You're going to have the serious players Then you have the less than serious players who just try to find excuses for why they don't want to show up, why they can't show up, and just things happen. And then, of course, I know there's still life circumstances and it's online and digital and stuff like that. But I would just like more people to just be honest and say, okay, this is not the game for me. Let me back out and stuff like that. That way, their spot can be filled by more serious players. At least I noticed that. I'm happy for that more often than not. As I'm running a session, my players, after they try a session, they let me know ahead of time. I do have a couple players in the Discord who hasn't contacted me and they haven't been active, like responding when I say, I usually do at everyone, is at everyone good to go for a session tomorrow or in certain hours. Most of my players respond. I call the inactive players the ones who don't respond, and I just keep that in mind. So whenever I do a purge, because right now the Discord server is not like for the broader community, because I'm not at that stage right now. I'm still doing play testing, so it's more like play testing. So there's that. Also, players in game taking a long time for their turns is like, I don't even want to say that I understand for spellcasters. We'll get to spellcaster different. But if you're a martial character, I'm like, all you have to do attack, attack, attack. Like there was a player recently. He's a hunter, ranger. I'm calling him the hunter in 8th of Mal when the new update comes out. Like, I know you can hunt prey. I know you have an animal companion, but it's like, usually you just go into routine, and then he added snares with the snare crafter archetype on top of it. So now that adds more things to do. But right now it's just routine, or it should be routine. Like you're going to use your first action or one of your actions to command your animal companion to get 2 attacks in, or a support action and an attack, and then you just attack, attack, attack. Maybe you move, but usually if you're a ranged attacker, you just stay in the back. And then if the enemy moves closer, you spend some actions to move further away, especially if you have a longbow. Now, if you're a snare crafter, that means you're going to have to be close to set it up. But I changed, the ranger has like a shifting snare thing where you can use your thing to manipulate it. I changed it to key. You still spend Aether points, you can move it. I'm having it work that if you have this and move it, because normally the perk is that you can't move it in occupied space, but the snare crafter archetype has a perk that allows you to set up a snare in an occupied space, so it automatically goes off. So I'm allowing the ranger to use this ability with that snare and combine it. That'll essentially let them use snares at range, which is cool. It's not overpowered because you still need to use actions, because you got to use the action to set it up, then the action to use the ability to shift it in the space. So it requires action, and of course you're still using that resource, so that's all right. And in terms of spellcasters, it could take a little longer, but if you're preparing for your turn while everyone else is going, considering a standard party of 4, and then the monsters go, even if it's just one monster, you should already have, I know, and then just add let's say 30 extra seconds because the battle state changed, because now ally went down, now the enemy transformed. That's not going to happen in normal D&D or normal Pathfinder, but with the new 8th round, I'm adding transformations, I'm adding battlefield actions, adding iconic actions, adding apex actions, all of these things are being added. So it might bog down the combat, but that just depends on the skills of the player. So if the combat gets bogged down, I consider that a skill issue, stuff like that. Now, that leads into the segment of game design and stuff like that. And the one thing that is in my mind, it keeps nagging at me, is that maybe it's too complicated for new players. And the only thing that's making me think about that is that maybe there are too many options. At level 0, you're good. So I like that. I don't plan on changing that, because the level 0 is like the key thing is, okay, new players can get in at the bottom. They just pick the normal stuff affinity, which is either bound version of backgrounds. You got your species, you got your lineage. All of this stuff matches up with Pathfinder 2E and 5th edition. So I'm comparing both of them since they're the two biggest in the space in terms of complexity. Compared to 5th edition versus Pathfinder 2E, 5th edition doesn't have the lineages. You only pick a race, but I think it doesn't add too much to complexity. It's kind of like, I'm pretty sure, or maybe it's just limited to DC 20, where you have options on the species that you pick. I really didn't look at the species in the player's guide for the D&D 2024 because I like options as a player, and that's why I'm not going to get rid of the options. I'm just thinking how I'm going to adjust it, because like I just pick a human. What am I going to do? I just pick in D&D terms, Osimar. I just pick an Osimar. I don't get any perks at certain levels. I can't evolve as an Osimar. After Pathfinder 2, he introduced those ancestry perks. I'm like, well, they got master feats. I'm like, wow, man, this is amazing. Why would I go back to 5th edition like playing what? I just don't even understand. So there's that. So I'm keeping them. I'm keeping all the perks. So you got the affinity. You got the species lineage. You still pick a class. Each class has level 0 features. And that's it. 4 things. So I think level 0 has. Now, when you level up to level 1, then you have to choose all these perks. You got a species perk. You got a class perk. Usually, most classes have a class perk at level 1. Even if they don't, they have all of these different class abilities. Then you got species perk, class perk. Then you got a general or skill perk. So you got 3. I personally don't think it's a lot, but I still see in 5th edition making a character is just generally faster. And I want to try to get it to that point where it's fast to make a character, fast to get in the game. Now, if I was going to a convention, I'm thinking in this sense that I would just have pre-generated characters made, because then I can just explain the thing. Because as far as combat and stuff like that, combat isn't even more complicated compared to 5th edition combat. I might have to analyze other combats because I haven't played DC 20, but I'm assuming the combat is going to be as in depth, if not more in depth, than 5th edition, since it's kind of like how Nimble. I think I don't want to compare it as much as Nimble was an iteration on 5th edition. DC 20 is an iteration on 5th edition, incorporating good things from Pathfinder 2E and other systems and stuff like that. So there's that. I added stamina burst actions, but the stamina burst actions are something you can do in addition. I haven't added anything extra to the combat that makes it more complicated. Like you're forced to do it. Everything I added was that it's optional. Like combining the reaction with the normal action system, you don't even have to worry about reactions. You can just save all your action points because if you use a reaction outside of your turn, you'll just have less actions during your turn. So you don't have to do that. You can just leave your actions and just do it to the normal turn. Stamina burst action. You don't have to spend the stamina points to take an action outside of your turn. You can just do that. If I'm the GM, I'm definitely going to have my monsters do it more often than not. If they're animals, they'll just do animal things. They're least likely to do it in the strategic sense, except if they get hit, then use a stamina action to hit back before the start of their turn, because that would make sense. Plus, if you use a stamina burst action to attack outside of your turn, it doesn't use the multiple attack penalty. And I don't think that's busted or broken in the sense that you're still using stamina points. So that's nice. I did use stamina burst actions on my party for the Mythic campaign that I run on Saturdays, and that one it upped the ante, especially with not requiring the multiple attack penalties. Now, if they lost the battle. The enemy only had 3 hit points left. The thing with Mythic is that you don't die when your wounded value equals your death threshold like normal. You die when your doomed value equals 4. So Mythic characters are harder to kill. So it just opens up a new narrative vein. They can still die at low levels. The enemies could decide to chop them up if they're fighting those type of enemies, but they're fighting enemies who usually assimilate strong enemies. So the goal is to assimilate them. So they're less likely to die fighting those specific enemies that they lost to. But anyway, the enemy only had 3 hit points left. Some other thing or group killed him off. I'll run that when it comes to session, which is actually tomorrow because I'm recording this Friday. So I don't want to give too much away from that. But it's quite interesting. If they would have used their stamina actions, or one player did, if the other players would have used their stamina first action or fought a little bit better using dodge actions and stuff like that. And then if the other player probably didn't waste his stamina actions, and then the battle could have changed. It was quite interesting. So there's that. And then the final thing is the digital part. Well, I'm so glad I'm working with a developer, but even with the JSON files, which I'm doing because I want it to be modular so I can work on the JSON files outside of the game development. That way, the code and the architecture the developer is working on, and then I'm adding like rules, and then I'm discussing with them, okay, this is what this stands for, and stuff like that. That making the JSON files is a time-consuming part, but the benefit of that is as I'm making the JSON files, I'm going through the rules I've already implemented. And okay, oh, I put that right there. That's a mistake. I need to change that over here. I've already known that with the traits because I made the main thing JSON file with all the traits in there. But then as I'm working on the system wars, the names of some traits have been changed. I removed some traits because now they're no longer needed. So that JSON file has been updated. And when I was making the armor, which I did recently, is that what, this armor weighs this much? Okay, let me review. And then I had this big discussion: is should I go back to bulk because Pathfinder 2 uses bulk, but I changed back to weight because I started with Pathfinder first edition Pathfinder, so I'm already used to weight and all of these things. And then I thought, okay, so I know they created this bulk to kind of encapsulate the weight and the unwieldiness of wielding the object and stuff like that. But in terms of ease of use for the player and understanding, players already understand the concept of weight and stuff like that from just living, and any school teaches that. So it doesn't make it easier for the player because now they have to understand what is light bulk, what is one bulk, what does bulk mean, versus weight. I can just have weight. This is how much you can carry and stuff like that. And in terms of realism, I don't even think bulk captures that compared to the weight thing. Because if I want them to carry less stuff as they're going through their adventures, I can just have the stuff weigh more. I can do that. There's a limit to that, of course. And also I can have just the base carrying capacity lowered. Right now I have it set to 20. I think I have it based on the size of the characters. So I think a medium character can carry a base 100 pound, and then their maximum carrying capacity is 200. That's assuming a might modifier of 0. And then with the might modifier, it's going to have the multiples and stuff like that. I'm really not concerned too much about the complexity in terms of determining carrying capacity, because that stuff is only done once outside of the game, and then you just keep it right there until you increase your attributes or get a perk. And plus, I'm having the framework because I'm thinking about, okay, I'm developing a TTRPG, but can this easily be translated in the video game? And if in a video game, or the VGT can handle this math easy, that's already done. But a future game, for example, a Skyrim-like game, or more realistically, the next step and in actuality is going to be a game like Solastus / Donsbury Days. Most likely Donsbury Days because that's already in 2D and that's it's been done by a single developer. I could do something similar with enough time. Solasta was made with more people, and of course it's 3D instead of 2D, so that's Donsbury Days, right? The way it looks like set. Donsbury Days then Celeste alike. And then I want to do something because I like Age of Wonders 4, or I liked it when I played it. Because I played it on, I think, the NVIDIA GeForce Now or something like that, because they didn't make a Mac version. It's only on Windows, and I didn't know this ahead of time, so I was so upset, but I like it. And I was thinking, if I wanted to make a 4X game based off of, because Eighth Bound, like the reason I started with a TTRPG is because Eighth Bound is like the groundwork of future games. It's like the ground system. And I wanted to do easiest to complex, so it's great to start with a TTRPG. So we have the rule set. If I want to make a 4X game based in the world of Aetheria, based on Aetheria, what game would make sense? Now, it wouldn't be Civilization. It could, but the focus of this type of game is not like the civilizations don't take center stage. In Aetherbound, just like in Pathfinder, just like in D&D, the big things are the heroes, the players, your character, stuff like that. So, which game has this? Not Civilization. Sure, it has the little temporary hero things you can add. Sure. I know they have Age of Wonders Planetfall. Oh, I could actually play it. See, Age of Wonders Planetfall is on Mac, but anyway. I'm trying to figure out what other 4X games. Humankind, okay, I only know Civilization because that's the main one I play. But Age of Wonders, we already understood. Because you can have a hero. You have the hero there. You can have the hero in your stackable monster. You have a kingdom and stuff like that and all that stuff. Now, the thing with that, the way I'm envisioning is that, okay, you have a kingdom, and you can name the kingdom whatever you want. When you first start the game, you can decide what type of kingdom you want to be. I'm thinking of things from like strongholds and followers. I think that's called from Mac Bill. And then I do need to look up more of the Bastion system that D&D 5th edition does. And then Pathfinder has these kingdom building rules. I'm going to try to incorporate all these different things. I have to read all those materials and stuff like that. But the way I'm saying is that, okay, you develop your kingdom, you choose some starting stats, kind of like how Age of Wonders 4 does it for them. The tones play a big part, but you can choose some starting stats, like, and then some of it is influenced on by the hero you pick, or maybe you can mix and match. Maybe you can for your hero you'll choose a class, and it will follow all the stuff that's already built in previous games. All of that's going to be later on. So a hero, you can level it up to level 20. Might go into epic levels. We'll see. So you can level them up as they go. Let's say you use let's go with the Edgewalker, which is like the mountain's version of Iron. So now you're Edgewalker. Maybe you want to be a hero who founded a kingdom for mages. So now you get all these mage options, which are a kingdom, and now your kingdom specializes in producing magic items. The kingdom units are spellcasters and stuff like that, and you're like the frontline person in battle. And I know even better, this is why I choose Age of Wonders 4 over Civilization, is that with Age of Wonders 4 and the similar games, Planetfall, stuff like that, I remember playing Ageless Legends, but I didn't like their tactical combat part. Sure, the overland map and the strategic portion was good, but the tactical format, I didn't really get that. Versus Age of Wonders 4, the tactical combat, that's easy if you're using the Pathfinder rules, and the D&D rules are already in there. So you can just follow those. So that is what I've been thinking. And that's going to be next steps. Well, that's a few years down the line. But I'm still thinking that as the BTT is being developed, and I will be thinking that as the Donsbury Days-like game is implemented, because the tactical combat engine will already be built in there. And I think that's amazing. And as far as the units, because the units can level up like an Age of Wonders 4, that would be some new monster designs, which is interesting. Probably use like, because in Age of Wonders 4, they're essentially swarms. or Paragon monsters, one or the other. I have to see. I might do like a unique thing where, because having your units level up, they usually only have 3 tiers or so. Um, they can be made, especially with elementals, because I can just go with the lower level elementals, then living waterfall, then the high level thing, and then dragons. You could just, okay, young dragon, and then just for the game purposes, and then kingdom times later on. Okay, they got enough experience for game purposes. That's striking the balance between lore and in-game thing. Now, of course, I can write the lore in the sense that, oh, they absorbed the essence of the enemies they defeated, and that's how they leveled up. I think if you purchased any of Battleseed Bestiary's contents, um, they make great content. I love it all. Everything I've read, I loved. Uh, the Indigo Owl thing, this was before I had the Bestiary. So now, after I have the Bestiary, I'll think about the Indigo Owls. But anyway, for their dragons, they have a Lux Eternal ritual that kind of explains a reason why the dragons are becoming stronger faster. Because usually dragons become stronger as they become older, which takes time because ancient dragons have lived for, I think, 1,000 years or so. But they create the ritual because a ritual is a way of them to accelerate their natural progression so they can level up as a normal player character would level up. So there can be something similar as long as logic is behind it for how this dragon is suddenly go from young to adult to ancient in terms of level progression. So dragons are easy, elementals are easy, and as far as kind of like the NPCs, I'm going to be looking at the NPC codex a lot, stuff like that. So that's okay. So this is all a thinking stage. So I hope you enjoyed this video and just me talking about just me talking about my plans and things like that. So thanks for watching, and if you have any questions about what I've learned from GMing a game, being a player in a game, my thoughts on Pathfinder 2e, because I am a player in 2 Pray for Death campaigns, and then running Aether Balance campaigns and stuff like that. I'm still trying to find a 2024 D&D 5e. I made a request on Roll20, but it's not super serious. I don't have to. I would just like to get some experience with the new rule set as far as being a player, because I really don't want to DM because that's too much extra work for what I want out of it at the moment.